I feel like we have to come up with something a little bit more like energetic. I don't know. I feel like this is like the beginning of a yoga retreat.
It was weird. It's definitely like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's definitely not the correct mood. Like it's almost like it was way too soothing last time. There's one that was way too serious and intense, and then this one was like almost patriotic, and then it was I don't even know. It was very strange.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. We'll find it. We'll find it. So, welcome in everyone to the Unscrupulousness podcast. This is your host, Jake Curtis, and with me, as always, is the one and only, the Hall of Fame owner, Kiefer Walsh. Happy week 8. We got that right this week?
I did, yeah. Bolded, all caps.
Bolded, all caps. Yeah. All right, great. We're going to jump right into it because we have an owner that will not be named, waiting in the waiting room in the green room right now, eating his bowl of brown M&Ms. Have you heard that story?
So we got color. I haven't heard that, but I was just going to say we actually provide color M&Ms, but then we pick all the colors out and we leave the brown.
Yeah. So I don't remember the band. I'm sure someone on the pod's like screaming it out right now. But there was a band that essentially would do that every place they would go. They would request that among other things, they would request all of the colors be removed, and I don't know if it's brown, but essentially one color would be left.
Apparently, and I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but Van Halen wanted all of the brown M&Ms removed.
There you go. Okay, yeah, that's Van Halen, and the brown M&Ms removed. But the logic behind it was that if the venue was willing to pay, be so detail oriented to remove all of the brown M&Ms on request, that they could trust them getting everything else set up. And so I guess the story goes that if they didn't do that, that they would like refuse to play that night. I don't know if that's possible, but
sounds reasonable.
Is that what you're reading?
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. Great. That means that if they got to that line and did that action, then that meant that they read the whole band's checklist.
Yeah, the checklist. Thank you. Okay,
odd.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah. Anyways, so the owner who shall not be named is eating a bowl of brown M&Ms because he requested those to be removed, and what we did was filled his bowl of only brown M&Ms because that's what the league thinks of him right now. Anyways, we will get into that just in 2 seconds, but I did want to start with the questions that must be answered this episode because maybe we've got some questions that will be answered by this owner. So I wrote in this like earlier in the week, and the question is this trade, like question mark. Now that we're recording, this trade is a little bit ambiguous. Which trade am I talking about? Because there were not one, but 2 blockbuster trades this week that had huge ramifications for the league and had everyone in a tizzy. So we'll answer that question, this trade.
Yeah.
In other news, a clear leader emerges. I'm not going to say who, but might have something to do with the shades. My scores have become so bright that I need extra protection. But does this week send the entire league into chaos? Like we are a couple of wins and losses away from reset. So with 5 games to go, absolutely everyone is still in the mix. No one has been eliminated, which brings me to my next question. Can Garrett make a run? Garrett is he has a 1-win streak, and projections say that it might be 2. Next question.
We'll see.
Has Sam done enough to jump a tier? Is Sam done enough to jump a tier? And certainly AJ Brown says yes, he has done enough to jump a tier. And we'll get into the data supporting that tier jump here in a minute. Next question. Is Jake's team the most overhyped team ever? I think this is a reoccurring question Sam asked earlier, and it's now. I've kept the receipts, and now it's time to look at the goods. Next question. How is Holland's draft looking through 7 weeks? Similar question to the last one.
It's kind of part
I also kept receipts. Holland's draft is 5-2, and we will get into that, and that question will be answered. All right. I think we've made him wait long enough.
Let's do it. Yeah. He's itching. All right.
I don't even have any questions ready for him. Obviously, we just need to, everyone's wondering, what were you thinking? And before he comes on, we need to talk about the Deshaun Watson drop as well.
Yeah. Yep. Don't worry. That's on there.
$.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
well, without further ado, let's welcome him in.
Yeah, there he is.
Wow.
For those of you listening on Spotify, good morning. Good evening, Kiefer. For those of you who are listening in on Spotify, Ned has entered the chat with the title, Everyone's Least Favorite Owner Right Now, which is great because after his first appearance on the podcast, it would be everyone's favorite owner right now.
Yeah, it seems just a couple of weeks difference. We'll cast me in a no. It was not my intention to get on everyone's bad side.
Certainly not on my bad side, Ned. You're not in my bad graces.
I made a number of trade offers this week. I threw some things out. I think there's well, I'll just get into it. Just with my explanation, and then So I'll even go back to last week. When I had the whole Jamal Williams IR issue. Couldn't move anyone. But I mean, that was just kind of the icing on the cake. It really started when Kyron Williams went down. My running back depth apparently just went, my team just got horrendously bad very quickly. And so there was obviously a need to fix things and well, at least try to fix things. I don't know if I'm any better than I am or than I was last week. But yeah, so it was trying to fix the running back depth issue because there in no way, shape, or form should I ever start Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, together in the same week. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So my goal this week was to acquire more running back depth. And kind of going against all of my, that my trade strategy is usually the opposite of what I did. It's usually to acquire, the elite person rather than trading the elite person for lack of a better term, bits and pieces. So I sent out multiple trades with AJ Brown. This week I sent one obviously to Sam that got accepted. I think I sent one to Thomas as well. That was actually, I think it was AJ Brown, Derrick Henry for, I think it was Gus Edwards, Kelsey, and somebody else in there as well. So I mean, there were a couple deals. Yeah, I mean, I was looking for something because looking at my team, even with Kyron Williams, I knew that I probably wasn't going to make the playoffs.
That's an interesting trade. That's an interesting trade offer for Travis Kelsey because obviously Thomas is in line for a championship this week this year. He's playing for winning it all. But Travis Kelsey isn't going to be the tight end number one forever. So that's an interesting trade offer there for someone at the tail end of their career. I mean, if he has a tail end of his career. Anyways, that was interesting.
Yeah. So I make these trades, and even the trade with Kiefer a couple weeks ago, all of these trades statistically are not, if you put them into the trade analyzer, which I do constantly, it's anywhere between 75, 80 cents on the dollar up to probably 90 or 95. I don't think any of these trades come out, for me looking favorable, but now it's just about taking a chance. So the AJ Brown deal, for essentially it's Brown and I forget who else it was, Baker Mayfield for Stroud and James Cook. That's me purely looking at, the positions that I have, on my roster, which is the strongest, quote unquote, because it's not a very strong room to begin with. But, receiver is probably where I have the most depth to say. And so I'm going out trying to acquire a running back. James Cook, before the week started, was running back 12. And if there's 24 running backs starting in the league, that's not necessarily the worst thing. And now I'm also looking ahead to next year. I'm still trying to get back in the playoffs this year, but also with a brief eye on next year. And so that's where CJ Stroud comes in. Since I've traded Fields away, looking at Stroud potentially, for next year as a keeper. And so that's the reason to swap Stroud for Mayfield, and Stroud's been a little bit better this year. So that's the reason for that deal. I think that's probably the most egregious deal in terms of value AJ Brown for Cook and Mayfield for Cook and Stroud. I think that came back and it was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do this deal, but just given the need for running back depth, that's what I did. And then the Derrick Henry deal with Dujek, obviously, that was looking for another running back. So to be able to get Stevenson and DeMercado out of it, just to be able to have those two guys was kind of the focal point of the deal. But also needing a tight end, since I haven't had one the entire year, even though I traded for Fryermuth and now he's on IR, of course. And then also upgrading, just originally I wanted to upgrade, some of my defensive positions and, tried to do that. The waiver wire didn't work. I'm just looking for a little more consistency. So that's why the Roquan Smith, part of it. So yeah, obviously it sent, I woke up to, I think it was 19 messages on WhatsApp on, I think it was Friday morning. And so, yeah, that didn't go down too well.
Yeah, I did too, because it went through at like 10, little after 10 p.m. for us. And so I was asleep. And so like you, I woke up to a fury of activity on the WhatsApp chat. But, I'll just say this from listening to you explain, like everyone has different valuations of every position, and it's impossible to be objective or to come up with like a measure. And I think that the trade analyzers are certainly the best tools that we have. But that doesn't like the keeper equation, that doesn't get entered. That data isn't there, right? And so that's why, like, I continue to say this in the chat, and I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I just give AJ Brown an immense value because of his age. He's an incredible talent, and he should be someone's keeper moving forward. And out of all of the other people mentioned in all of these trades, I don't think any of them hold keeper value. Like, I didn't keep Kittle, but you could argue he's a keeper level tight end. No, I did keep Kittle. Yeah, so he's a keeper. And Derrick Henry can be a keeper, but obviously you don't want to keep him going into age 30 season. So I just thought that AJ Brown has a lot of value here. Kiefer, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we had messaged about the first trade, and I think like I would call it uneven. I wouldn't call either of these trades like egregious by any means. The first trade, essentially you're looking at AJ Brown. CJ Stroud is certainly better than Baker Mayfield, and like potential wise, he's going to be a guy that probably gets consistently like Kirk Cousin type numbers, which is a top 10, like top 12 quarterback. So that's a keeper quarterback. So you do get a benefit. So I don't want to say you just throw the quarterbacks out and it's AJ Brown for James Cook. So you do get a bit of a benefit, but yeah, like the keeper potential is certainly way higher for AJ Brown. And I don't think anybody's going to keep James Cook. So it was uneven. I would not say it was egregious. And then going to the next trade, like certainly a little bit of it is conjecture, because if Derrick Henry gets traded and Spears becomes an RB1, then if that had happened before this trade, then I think like totally would have been a no-go, because it's two RB1s for essentially Ramondre Stevenson. But you can't, you can't bank on that happening. I still think though you're getting with Derrick Henry, you're still getting consistent RB1 value. Luke Musgrave is like a serviceable tight end. I think Kittle's obviously doing better than him, but it's a step up, but it's not a huge step up. I throw the linebackers kind of out of it. I don't know Ernest Jones off the top of my head here, what his numbers look like, but and I throw Amari DeMercado kind of out of it because I don't know if he's starting for you. But so I think about like Derrick Henry with a lesser tight end and another running back who's got RB1 potential based on the trade for kind of an RB3 type of guy. And it felt uneven. Again, not egregious, but that was kind of the thought process for the second one. Like Thomas and I talked about this too for a while. I hate the veto because I feel like you have two consenting teams that want to make a trade that's not obviously collusion. It should be fair, and I'm very pro wanting to people to trade. So I think we just need to decide, like, do we want to get rid of this veto function for
Yeah.
trades that seem unequal, or do we want to be like kind of big commissioner on this and be like, hey, if you're going to trade and IBM Watson is discrepant by X, do we want to, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, if we want to get specific about it, but
Yeah,
that's
I've thought,
So-
I've spent so much time, way too much time thinking about this, and we've been here before in this league, and we've gone back and forth. We've gone from nothing to something, and I think that and now, like, our last iteration and changes, I don't even think were expressed into the rule books, because my memory is different from the language that we decided on. I was under the impression that we had decided collusion only. Like, collusion was going to be the only way that we stopped a trade, and it sort of had to be unanimous among the league. Like, yes, this is collusion. The teams that aren't involved in the trade, and that certainly that language isn't in the rule book. So I think we definitely need to come to some kind of consensus here of how we're going to roll with trades in the future. And I think trying to quantify it with numbers is impossible, but it's an option, because you could come up with some kind of range that shows us that it's not crazy, right? But that if it's outside of that range, then yes, it is crazy. And there are different tools out there. And certainly, like, The Athletic has a trade table, a spreadsheet of players' values. But of course, our league is different because scoring is different. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think that, again, if it's not egregious, if it's not like, if it's not just stupid, then I think that, and again, like, I was mad about the AJ Brown trade because I wanted him, right? And so it would be, and I told Sam, I'm like, if this goes to a vote, I'm recusing myself. Like, I cannot be involved with this voting because I'm way too biased. I can't do it. So again, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is, but my fear is that it's gonna take away from the fun of the league, right? Like, I want guys to think that they have a fair shot. Like, I certainly don't want an asterisk next to any championships that I may or may not win this year. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure that everyone feels like things are an even playing field. But those are my worries and rambles.
Yeah. I feel like we have a lot of weird rules in this league, and I think a lot of them are fun. But we've seen in the past in this league is that it's very we're very quick to make rules that are not fun for the sake of making rules, and it's hard to police trades. Like,
I've been meaning,
I don't know.
I've been
I guess
to
we have this
Google, like, what, and come up with ideas. And Ned, I know you've been playing fantasy football for a long time. I don't really know what the standard procedures are in other leagues and what they do, because we've certainly never come up with a system I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in 3 different leagues right now, and the process is 3 different. Like, there's 3 different processes. I mean, there's this league with the votes. There's one league that actually my sister runs, and she has executive power, where she can decide. And then the last league, it's a vote, but the vote total is it's a lot fewer. I think it's, of the 12 owners, I think if we have 3 votes or something, then it gets squashed. So it's one of those where it's not necessarily a majority. It's just and that leads to a lot of questions, but at the same time, it's just, so that's the policy and we live with it. But I mean, I get it. These are not, these deals are, they've obviously, not sat well with some people. And I think just, it comes down to personal valuations and all of that. And I mean, for the record, I mean, if Derrick Henry ends up on the Ravens this week, I'll be pissed. Just strictly speaking, because I think of realistic destinations and where he could end up, like, I'll be upset. But I mean, I've been trying to move Derrick Henry since week 1. Full disclosure, didn't want him as my keeper. I'm pretty sure I tried to trade for Bijan like 3 straight weeks or 2 weeks. I can't remember how many deals I offered, but I mean, I've been trying to move him I think this is kind of his last year, and with Tannehill being down, now Malik Willis, the starting quarterback.
That's the other thing that we haven't discussed is that changes a lot. That Titans offense has been bad with Tannehill, and now you've got two quarterbacks that no one wants to start. No one.
And so I was trying to get rid of him. I have been the last couple weeks, and Tannehill's injury I think is the same one he had. Was it last year or 2 years ago where he was out for the year? So I don't know. Just trying to mix it up, and I'm hopeful. I mean, I was bullish on Ramondre before the draft. Obviously, the Patriots have been awful this year, but I'm hopeful that last week was kind of a sign of things to come. So we'll see.
And again, and this wasn't a trade that I immediately jumped. I went back and forth forever because I think we have a similar valuations of Stevenson. I'm high on him for the rest of the season. I don't think he's been 100%, and I think that he's closer to 100% now. And Henry has scared me because Spears looks so good, and so that's sort of why he threw him in there, not because of the trade potential, but just because is Derrick Henry the number one guy there every single week? Is he going to get? He's not getting. He got 20 touches twice this year, right? He's had multiple games of 10 carries. That's not Derrick Henry value, right? So that's not. He's usually volume king.
Yeah, if this were a dynasty league, I wouldn't have made that deal. Because there's no way you can give up Tajay Spears with how he's looked. He might have been not the harder one to get rid of, but it certainly gave me pause because of that situation.
And just last thing, DeMarcado is projected to have 17 points this week. And again, that's if he starts because they've swapped their depth chart for 2 weeks in a row. And I know Kiefer's a little salty about that because he
that cost me. It was a $40 hole in my pocket.
But again, when I added DeMarcado to the conversation, I was like, okay, that's another starting running back in the NFL. That has real value. If you can find a starter in the NFL that got the majority of touches the previous week, that's value. That's what we're all looking for. We're looking for starters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that was the thought process. I don't know when Connor's slated to come back, and I mean, I think it's at least another few weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks maybe.
So, I mean, with my running back room, it's just I need as many goes at as I can. Any week that I don't have to start Najee Harris until he looks, serviceable, I think. And I say this as a Steelers fan because I can't. It's almost hard to watch. But I mean, with Stevenson, DeMarcado, Cook, and I think there's one more. Madison is the other one. They're 4 starting running backs who are probably around the same level. Cook's a little bit higher, but it's just trying to find, something that'll work. So, we'll see. But again, I guess my closing message is not I love to trade. I love to kind of make deals, and I love a keeper league because you can obviously, you can look at certain things, and it's not just this year, it's obviously future years as well. So, but my intention was not to rile everyone up and and
provide content for the pod.
Yeah. I mean, it's purely just, purely just looking to make deals that I think will benefit me. And when I look at trades, I try and look at trades that'll benefit both parties. So, Sam had a running back room 5 or 6 deep, and I said, let's go after one of them. And then, with you, it was just looking for running back depth. So, So again, not trying to upset anyone, just looking at deals all the time, and love trade offers. So if people want to send me them, I'll just, campaign for that right now. So
throw that up.
Not that I have anyone that really might be worth trading for, but who knows?
All right, Ned. Well, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna my final piece. I was gonna say that we've had a couple teams in the past that have liked trades, but it's definitely a minority, and so we've needed that. If we're gonna add 2 more owners this year and people that don't want to trade, then it just is that much less fun. So I think at the end of the day, everybody who voted to veto, I don't think we actually care. I think I'm glad that a trade happened, and
Tom keep trading. Tom has made it very clear to me that he doesn't really care. And so
No, I'm gonna keep trading, keep making moves. I think I'll probably have 100 more waiver moves by the end of the year than everybody else, and that's
Hey,
fine.
I'm trying. I think I have like 12 or 13 moves on the waiver this week. I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's fun, and yeah, I'm gonna keep doing that, and yeah, we'll see what happens if Stevenson and DeMarcado have 100 points between the two of them, then I'll feel great this week, and it'll be great. So,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're playing this week, so hang in, watch the live stream, and we'll talk about the projections in the matchup and get our projections. See who
Sounds good.
might pick for that.
I would pick you as well for this week, so just to throw that in there.
Well, and I don't want spoilers, but I never pick myself, and this week I might pick you, which means, Ned, that you'll probably get. So I'm picking you. I'm picking you.
Sounds good.
All right, Ned. Thanks for stopping by and
awesome.
giving us all your thoughts. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See you.
We'll see you.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh,
there it is.
There he goes.
26 minutes in.
Sweet. Let's hey, that's okay. That was an important conversation. But that's good. We can jump back. Let's see. Let's skip the other news here. Waiver wire happenings. Just had a couple comments. Tom went ahead and put $37 on Darrell Henderson in that Rams backfield. Dan, $13 for Devin Singletary in a questionable Texans backfield, and he picked up Micah Parsons for $4. Those are the two notables that I had for waiver wires. NFL headlines. I don't really have any big notables to put out there. I think we can just jump right into the recap.
I don't think we've mentioned Deshaun Watson yet. And it was something that I really wanted to ask Ned as well. But that's Thomas picked up Deshaun Watson this week for $17. So that might have been the most questionable move he made this week, and we didn't ask him about it. We apologize to the listeners out there. And maybe if Ned's on the live stream, he can rejoin.
I mean, it's funny. I'm looking at Deshaun Watson's weeks, and 24 points, 11 points, 21 points. I didn't realize if you would ask me how many points he'd averaged in the 3 weeks he actually played, I probably would have told you 8 points. I didn't realize he actually put up 20 points. Fantasy wise, questionable call. Good for Tom for jumping on it, but I don't want that dude.
Don't want that dude. No.
Sorry.
I didn't put a single dollar in. I didn't bid for him because I don't have any money left.
I'll be honest. I didn't realize he dropped him. So
there you go.
Good on.
No,
Tom.
I saw that, but again, I don't have any money left, and so I didn't even put a $0 bid in because I knew that someone was going to put at least $1 in. So I didn't waste my time. And I've got my 2 quarterbacks of week 10, so I got my guys. All right, we're going to move right into the week in review. We're going to spend a little time here because we're short on time. But game of the week was Dan versus Jake, which was a huge matchup between 2 4-2 teams. And Jake got away with a win there at 272 to 246. This was an interesting matchup because Bijan sort of didn't get any touches in the first half and had 1 snap. And then so he ended up with 0.6 points, right? And then Dan started defensive back on bye. And so I don't know if that shows a pattern of what was the phrase? Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that shows a pattern of intent or whatever we called it. So we'll have to watch him and see if he does that again, and then points will be deducted. So I had Dan, you had Jake, ESPN had me by 43. Closer game than we thought. I did have a 0 on the team. Chris Jones, he had at least 1 sack in the last 4 or 5 games, and he got 0. So that was disappointing. And just quickly here. Aaron Jones is on a snap count. Jerome Ford leaves early. Christian McCaffrey not at 100%. Tua scored 9 points. We got contributions from all over the field. Darren Waller was over 20. Alua Khan was over 30. Tyreek and Jerome Ford had 25. So am I a Christian McCaffrey injury away from being a bad team? The data says no. I've got the number 1 receiver, the number 2 receiver, the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 linebacker, 2 top 10 tight ends. I don't think so, but everyone's has their opinions.
There's a lot of season
There
left,
is.
so you never know. There is. But I don't have a whole lot to add. The Bijan thing was very odd. I guess he woke up sick, or he woke up with like a headache or some sort of illness, and so they didn't have to report it on the injury report. He had 1 snap in the first half, and everybody was freaking out, and they ended up having like a carry in the second half. But outside of the defensive back, Kayvon Wallace and Bijan, I thought Dan honestly had a pretty good shot at winning this week. I mean, anytime you get close to 250 points and you've got like a 0 at running back, you've got a chance to win the game. So, but unfortunately, just couldn't. We got to bring our best against you. And
and I think that's just the other takeaway from this game is that it just continues to have. I continue to have the highest floor in the league, 272, and I still feel like I just haven't played my best game yet. And my floor is extremely safe. And so, you can't start a defensive back on bye and expect to beat me. You got to bring a full roster every single week. So, yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
Cool. Well, let's jump into the next game here. This one was a nail biter, and it actually got closer. It got closer over the past two days. Tom went up a half point and went down a full point, so it narrowed it by 1.5 points.
Wow.
Yeah. So it ended up being a 2.9 point game. But of course, Tom on the road plays me. It literally came down to the last play. So Cam Bynum, who is now my defensive player. I think I put it later on.
He's amazing.
He is my favorite defensive player on my roster. Yeah. He's awesome. Yeah, he is awesome. He had 2 picks after Brock Purdy was probably concussed. And the second pick came on the last play of the game. And that is literally what gave me the win. So well-fought battle, Thomas.
And now those interceptions make a lot more sense now knowing the state of Brock Purdy's brain.
Correct. The stat line was he was 19 for 24 for 250-ish yards and a touchdown. And then he did that quarterback sneak, 2 for 6, 2 picks.
I mean, and the picks are bad. Just over the middle of the field, dig routes, no one's
bad
there.
Throws.
Just bad.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So it does make sense. Monday Night Football alone was, I mean, I did not think I had a chance. We were talking, Jake said we should do a live stream. This game between Garrett and Tim is going to be real close. And your game. And I was like, nope, not really. I'd need Addison to score like 30 plus points. And he did. Yeah. He got exactly.
And I sent you the It Could Happen Angels in the Outfield GIF. And I thought that gave you, gave you some hope.
Yeah.
So
that's probably what did it for me.
Minnesota.
So, right. We all picked Thomas.
And we all got burned.
And ESPN had Tom by 32 points.
Huge win. Obviously, I was happy about that. I need Tom to lose a couple of more games, but huge victory for you moving forward.
And I'll say, ESPN, not only did they pick me to lose by 32 points, but they still owe me two points for the safety for Max Crosby last week.
Hashtag never forget. All right, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this next one. Good Lord. Sam beats Ned by 102 points. Not the biggest margin of victory this season. That's still Thomas over Garrett by 107 points back in week 3. But still, demonstrative win here. And just really injury to insult to injury. Sam beats Ned and then takes his best player a week later, AJ Brown. Just yikes.
Yeah.
And then was it Sam's? Oh God, no, it was Ned's defense. Yeah, tell us about Ned's defense, how they did.
Yes. Man, Ned's defense, his IDPs averaged 3.3 points, which is I didn't go back too far in history, but from what I could tab back, is the worst I've ever seen in league history. And it's crazy because he's got good defensive players. But like we've seen in this league over and over, you have to put up a decent amount of points to have any sort of fighting chance.
It's what creates a floor, and 176 is not even close to the basement. So that's 3.3 from the defense. It's remarkable. And again, Ned playing a man down here because he was unable to make any transactions in or out of his team because of the roster lock Thursday night. Thursday night always sneaks up on me, and so that's honest. That's an honest mistake there, having a guy on IR play on Thursday. There's so many times where a player that's on the bottom half of my roster that's droppable that I would like to move on from later in the week, they play Thursday night and they get locked up, and I can't drop them for the rest of the week. That happens all the time to me, and Cade Otten, is that his name? He's on my roster right now. That's another good example. I would like to move on from him, and he's stuck. So, and if he was in the IR slot, then everything's stuck. So,
yeah. Well, I'm actually glad that it didn't end up being a close 10-point game, because then Ned would not forgive himself for making that blunder.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
Cool. Let's move on to the last one here, and this one. Just as much of a nail biter, 3-point game. So Garrett gets a second win, 243.6 to 240.6 against Tim on the road. It was a fun game. And then again, you look at the rosters, or you look at the box score, and it really wasn't that exciting of a game, in that it was a solid performance from both teams. They both had one guy that got over 30. 3/4 of the players in this game, I can't remember what our roster size is, but 75% of the players in this game had 15 points or less. So not like a star-studded affair, but still a fun one. Anytime it's close, it's fun. So, and I'd have to give the MVP, game MVP, I'm going to hand the ball out to Myles Garrett, who had 30.5 points, and Kamara, who had 35.5 points. So those are the two fun ones.
Yeah, that is fun. Garrett getting a win is fun. Beating Tim, who is tied for first place, or was he solely in first place last week? Not solely, but he was in second place. Yeah.
Second.
So huge win for Garrett, upsetting the second ranked team in the league as the 8 out of 8. So that's fun.
Yeah. And it looks like we all had Tim in this one. So
now you can't blame us.
No, I think we were picking with our heads and not with our hearts there. After I think I've been picking with my heart, I think I've been picking Garrett consistently. So thanks a lot, Garrett. So ESPN and I both went 2-2 this week. You went 1-3. So that brings our final tally here. I am 15-9. You hit 500. You are 12-12, but you're beating ESPN by one game. They are 11-13 in the picks. So ESPN really doing pretty poorly. Huh?
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think you and I love to look at projections really because it's the only thing to look at. But a lot of people just don't. They just think it's hogwash. But I'm glad we're keeping track this season. So let's move along to awards. Adam Vinatieri Award, the player that scored the most points this week in fantasy was Lamar Jackson. However, that wasn't the player that scored the most points on Sam's team, as Deontay Foreman went off on Sam's bench. Yeah. So unfortunately, Sam had the top scoring player in the league on his bench, and then the top scoring player that was active in our league was Lamar Jackson, and that's part of the reason why he had the most points scored in the league this week, which gives him the Battle of Thermopylae Award. And I think we all know who's getting Dak QB Sneak Award. 2 lopsided trades, dropping Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of things that we could look into here, but Ned's coming away with the Dak QB Sneak Award this week.
Yeah. If we could give it out twice,
2 or 3 times this week.
And unfortunately, also wins him the West End Ticklish Memorial Award for his performance, 176.53 points. That nearly perfect award is going to stick with you for at least one more week with your best record at 5-2. And then Garrett got a W, but he still has that nearly defeated award. Yet somehow still only 3 games out of
I
first
think
place.
you went over the Patriots Nearly
Parity.
Perfect Award too quickly, because I think this is the first week.
That's
Is
fine.
it? No, I guess Tim won it solo the first couple of weeks, right? I think after week 2, Tim had the best record by himself. But this is certainly the first week in a while where there's been a Patriots nearly perfect award going to one team. There's been a lot of parity in this league, but now for at least for 1 week, we have someone in first place all alone. A
single winner and a single loser.
All right, so let's move forward to the week ahead. First off, the first matchup we're going to look at is Ned at Jake, which has been aptly named by you, the Saudi Bowl. This is the first ever Saudi Bowl. We're really excited about this. The 2 teams here in Saudi Arabia battling against each other. So yikes, the projections is about 72 points as of earlier this week. He still doesn't have a kicker the last time I checked in there, so they're probably going to close the gap a little bit. But anytime you're talking about 70 points, that's tough. Okay,
looks like he grabbed one. He got Dustin Hopkins last week, and then it looks like he got Legatron. Greg
great. Hopkins was a great pickup. I think he's average-wise #1 kicker in the league. So yes,
a bunch of us put a bid in on him, right? Yep. You and I both put a bid in. Yeah. Old Dusty Hopkins.
He was traded. The Chargers didn't want him. And so I am 6-1 against Ned this year. Ned has the head-to-head year, week to week. 6-1. Ned has beaten me once this year. All points are looking towards Jake winning this matchup, and so I will pick myself for the first time, which means that Ned is going to win, and so I'm picking Ned.
Okay, I got it. So we'll put you down for.
You might have to write that in.
Ned. I don't even know what to interpret it. I think, I think Ned gave his best player away. He gave his best player to you and his second best. Well, I think he gave probably his second best player to you and his best player to Sam. So I have to pick you as well. I do appreciate him coming on this podcast. I don't think, we've only had this podcast for a season, but I don't think we would have ever had anybody in a theoretical podcast world that would come on and talk about the trade that they made and have such grace and dignity going about it.
And being the new owner, like that's a lot of pressure. You know, there are a lot of grown ass men in this league that he doesn't know. He's never met before. So I thought that took a lot of gumption to come on here and defend himself in the way he did. But knowing Ned, I wasn't surprised. All right, your matchup with Tim.
Yes, Tim, 4-3 on the road against me at 3-4. So this is a close one. I mean, this is the chance for me to even the score, get to 500, take another team down, drag them through the mud with me to 500.
To 500?
500? Yeah.
What time is it there?
It's late. 11 p.m. I'm riding high off our high school win. Carl's pretty crazy. Wow. But anyways, very excited. Riding high off that. But man, this game, I have concerns. I think Tim, I called him the most talented roster of the year, and he's definitely the best Tim owner we've ever had. Throw back to the West End Ticklers, but he's got some really good matchups this week that concern me. So Breece Hall might get 50 points this week as they're trying to ship Dalvin Cook out. And his wide receivers have pretty good matchups too, although they're playing pretty easy teams. So my best bet is that I can play that game of not getting a whole lot of touches for him. But we'll see. It's going to be a knockdown, drag out type of game, and the projection for ESPN is pretty close this week. So it'll be one of those fun kind of 250 type games.
Nice. Yeah.
That being said, I have Tim.
Yeah. Okay. So Kiefer's going with Tim. I just realized that I don't have anything in my projection, so I'm gonna have to make one up on the spot here. But I did dig into this matchup a little bit. Really interesting trend going on between the two of you. Through the first 5 weeks, Tim is 5-0 against you. He would have beat you every single week for the first 5 weeks. However, the last 2 weeks he is 0-2. So the question here is, did Tim peak in week 3? Or am I just hot right now? And I think that you wrote that. Is that right?
Did I?
Or am I just hot right now?
I think I probably wrote that. I probably wrote that under.
I didn't write it. I'm not hot right now.
So I wrote that. Yeah, that's correct. I said, did Tim peak, or am I just going on a run right now? Is my team hot right now?
Yeah.
And that being said, I don't know what your temperature is, so I can't comment on that. But
I'm going Kiefer here. He's hot right now, so I'm rolling with Kiefer in this matchup.
Good, I love it.
It would be huge to have you and Tim at 4-4. That would be something. And again, we're going to get into standings here in a little bit, but this week we are a couple of wins and losses away from absolute chaos.
I would be, and I'm not just saying this to try to be the world's honesty broker here, but I would truthfully be the world's worst 500 team if I happen to win this game, without a doubt. Even if my team is the healthiest that it could possibly be, I bet there is some sort of computer system out there that shows that I would not be the best team or even close to the best team. So if I can, and I've been saying steal wins for the past 4 weeks, and I've made it happen for a couple weeks in a row here. So this will be another theft.
Yeah, I look forward to it. All right, moving on to the game of the week. This is the matchup that everyone's really talking about. Sam is beaten at the door of relevancy. Tom coming off of a loss. Things could get really interesting in this matchup. Thomas is 4-3. Sam is 3-4. Again, if Sam steals one here, which according to the projections wouldn't be a steal, both teams are 4-4. Which just is crazy. So huge implications for both teams here. But Sam needs this. Thomas has the tiebreaker, of course, because he's the second highest scoring team in the league. So not like a death blow by any means for Thomas, but certainly gets Sam back in there because he hasn't scored a whole lot of points this season. So he really needs to get his record up if he wants to make the playoffs and feel secure about doing so. Again, Sam bringing in AJ Brown in this matchup. ESPN's got him by 9 points. Look at this. Listen to this total. ESPN has Sam 291 and has Thomas at 281. So these are the two. I think the first biggest projection obviously was Sam, and then the third biggest projection with Thomas. So this is the matchup. This is going to be a lot of points scored. It's going to be close. Sam, obviously the highest scoring team last week, and so can he ride that momentum into another victory? It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is wild to me because I feel like right now, especially when you add AJ Brown, Sam's roster is just loaded with talent. And Thomas all year, it's been you and Thomas putting up the most points. And so I think, I mean, if I factor in the depth problem that you have on your roster, I would argue that these are probably two of the most talented rosters right now.
Yeah,
and
from top to bottom.
From top to bottom, exactly. And the fact that Sam wins in this game and they're both at 500, that's insane.
It is insane.
And it doesn't give me a lot of hope for my team. That's my point with all of this. The fact that we could all three be 500, that's crazy to me. But
you have to be thrilled.
Oh, absolutely. But at the end of the day, the points for is what shakes everybody out.
Yeah, if you're tied. Yeah, but I mean, it's better than the alternative. I mean, you're in the mix, and that's all you can ask for at this stage, especially as the worst 500 team in the history of fantasy football, as you just stated. So
exactly. But this will be the game that I will be keeping my eyes on because this will be fun.
No doubt. All right, next game, the not game of the week.
Yeah. This is the one that kind of gets buried.
But
it's okay.
But why, Dan? projected to beat Garrett by 1.6. This is the closest matchup of the week. So
That's
I don't know what
crazy.
I was saying. This might be the game of the week. I mean, imagine if Garrett beats Dan and he's 3-5.
Yeah, and then we're living in a world where Garrett and Ned could have the same record. You're up there, and then everybody else is 500.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
So again, there's a path here that leads to absolute chaos.
Yeah. And I think this matchup is particularly interesting. I think Dan's kind of in a tough spot right now from a health perspective, where he's still got a couple weeks for a Chan and Jefferson to come back. And he's got this weird like Bijan and Algier situation in the backfield. So he's kind of in limbo. And we're still waiting on Saquon to come back healthy. He's got Deontay Johnson, who's coming off IR. TJ Hawkinson got injured. So and Daniel Jones, like whatever's going on with his neck. But I think Tyrod's honestly more serviceable. So he's still dealing with injuries. And then Garrett's got some really good matchups in this one. So I've got Kamara's versus Indy, Pacheco's at Denver. Dak and Pollard have the Rams, which is going to be a shootout. He's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield. Burrow is going to be in a shootout in San Francisco. So he's got a potential to put up enough points to win. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have too. It's going to be a good game. That's certainly another one that we're watching with a close eye.
And I haven't made a pick yet. Neither of you. We have not made picks in this one.
Wow.
I'm going.
I think so too, man. All right, we're both typing in the same name. Kiefer, what is it?
Garrett.
We're both going Garrett here. Oh my God, this is, and maybe it's wishful thinking because it's going to be chaos, but it's going to be close. All right, let's move on to segment number 5, everyone's favorite segment, the playoff hunt, brought to you by Hunt's Ketchup. It's not Heinz, but it's better than nothing. I can't wait until this podcast takes off and Heinz's lawyers contact us.
Shut it down.
Yeah. All right. So a couple of takes after the shakeup and shakedown of the playoff standings through 7 games. Jake was the winner this week, taking over the uncontested number 1 spot. He owns the best record. He also has scored the most points in the league. So all is well in the league. There are 6 teams within 1 game of each other for second place. Okay. That's wild. That's wild. Standings for the first time this year perfectly align with record and points forced. So
that's crazy.
It's just crazy. Top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If your position is 5th, that means you have scored the 5th most points in the league. So it is all is well. Everything, the stars have aligned.
Yeah.
And certainly we would hope that that's through 7 games, we're starting to see a little bit more of a clear picture. And hopefully that's what we see here. Garrett is 2 games back from second place. So again, everything is in play here. He's 3 back from the leader, 2 back from the field. Anything can happen. 5 games left. So that's no changes to the top 4. But a lot of jockeying at the back end, even things up. And again, like I said, last 5 games, things are really, really going to be interesting for the 5 through 8 crew. Can anyone jump? Sam obviously is playing really well. He's still 26 points back, or about 24 points back, I should say, from Dan in points forced. So he's going to need not only to win, but he's going to have to outpace Dan's scoring this week if he wants to make a full leapfrog into the playoff run. All right. So that's all I wanted to say with that. But we do want to bring up sort of a new tool, something that we're going to look at throughout the rest of the league. And that's essentially this tool that is on my favorite fantasy football website that I've referred to in the past when looking at rankings. I used this website when we were talking about the draft rankings and the seasons rankings and the power rankings. But Kiefer and I in our production meeting were sort of playing around with this other tool. It's essentially called All Play, and it makes a lot of sense. It takes out the the luck that comes with playing one team every week. It essentially puts you against every single team in that week and gives you a record for that week. Okay. Does that make sense? But what they've also done is a season to date all play, which means it gives you a record for all of the matchups you would have had if you played every single team every single week. Does that make sense? Am I explaining this correctly?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
So for example, yeah. Let's say I play you this week. There are 6 other teams that are playing each other. This tool says that, okay, I beat you, but how many teams would I beat this week, and what would my record be on that? So if I had the best record of all, I'd be 8-0, etc.
Yep. And so last week, we'll use last week as a real example. Sam scored the most points in the league. So he's 7-0. He beat every single team in the league. I scored the second most points in the league. So I'm 6-1 for that week. Okay. And so we can go on and look as soon as it loads. So week 6, Kiefer scored the most points. He got a 7-0 record for week 6. Okay. Thomas was 6-1. I was 5-2 because I scored the third most points in the league. So I think everyone understands that. But the real interesting thing is that when you look at the season to date all play, then you're seeing every single week, every single matchup, every single team. And so in first place, not surprisingly, I am 40-9 against everyone every single week. I have lost 9 games out of the combined 7 times 8, 56 games, right? Wait, it's 49. 7 times 7. Yeah, 7 times 7, 49 games. Thomas is in second place, 35-14. Okay, so I have a win percentage that's 10% higher than Thomas. I like that. And then quickly we get very close to 500. Third place, Tim is 28-21 against the league this year. And Sam is in fourth place at 24-25. So if everyone played everyone every single week, Sam would be in the playoffs. Sam is a playoff worthy team, but that's just not the way we program things here because it's just not. So rounding it out, Dan's in 5th place, tied with Kiefer for 5th place at 22-27, and then Ned at 13-36, who has one more overall record than Garrett, which I think is interesting. Garrett 12-37. Just one win separates those 2 teams.
And it's crazy if you now kind of compare all of these records to what the actual records are, because that's where you start to see the weird things come out of it. And you maybe already highlighted this and I wasn't listening, but the fact that Sam is what was the example we used last time? It was that Dan, and did you mention this? How Dan's a game behind you in real life, but all points is significantly far behind you. No. So that's the interesting thing here. So Jake is technically his record right now, his all points record against everybody is 0.82, but his record in the league is 0.71. So he's 5-2. So if you take the same thing for Dan in this all points is 0.45. So now you're talking about 0.82, 0.45. So in any given week, Jake is beating twice as many teams as Dan, but he's literally only a game behind Jake. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and in the all-in, I have literally exactly 3 times more victories than Dan. And the win percentage is very, very close. So interesting little tool there just to, again, sort of tease out the records. Records don't mean everything, but they certainly mean a lot as they are the way we determine who makes the playoffs. So very important, very important. So is Jake's team the most overhyped team in fantasy football history ever? 40-9 Holland's draft is 40-9 against the league this year. So
now, can you be the best team, or let me ask this question: can you be the team with the best record in the league and still be the most overhyped team?
Absolutely, right? Absolutely, because we're talking like hype. We're talking about not just like the Cowboys defense is a good example of this being overhyped, right? Because they started this generational defense, historical defense. They're not just playing to be the best defense in the NFL. They're looking to be the NFL's best defense ever, right? And so, if you're starting to, if the hype is that this could be one of the best fantasy football teams that this league has ever seen, then certainly this hype can be bigger than just this year, and that might be overhyped.
Right.
But I don't know how much, like, without the podcast, has there ever been a team that's hyped? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's there's not a discussion around teams typically without something like this, because we don't just sit around at the cooler talking about, teams that you think are really good. You're really just focused on your team. It really takes a podcast or a community to really talk about teams in context that create a certain level of hype.
That is true. That we really haven't had a team that's been too overhyped. I guess certainly like when we've had a draft and a team, we've come out of our draft and had conversations with more than just one other person. That's a way to hype teams. And we've done that after drafts, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of like trees have been falling in the forest since 2007, and they've been making sounds, but we've never been there to hear them. And now we're there to hear them. And is your tree falling too hard? Yeah,
we're recording those sounds, and we'll be able to listen to them forever.
Right.
Just like I typically don't have a long memory with fantasy football, but there was a team that I had in 2011 or 2012. It was Jamal Charles was my RB1, but it was CJ Spiller who had running back wide receiver eligibility, and he was the Bills running back. And I was able to plug in a running back into the wide receiver slot, and that was it was a cheat code. And I'm pretty sure Jamal Charles wasn't, because CJ Spiller was a really, really good running back that year, and he was in my wide receiver slot. That team, I remember thinking, shouldn't really lose. And that eligibility came at the end of the year, so right for the playoffs. And I don't think any of the games were close, but we might have still been playing with 4 teams back then.
That's very possible. Yeah. Wow.
So,
I wish we had access to those.
Maybe 6, because Dan, I knew Salvaggio back then, but
yeah, we didn't play with 4 for many years.
No, it must have been 6, because again, Salvaggio was probably in the league by then.
Yeah.
And what an important expansion that was, getting Dan in the league.
Yeah. Worst decision he's ever made in his life.
Yeah. He's stuck. He's been unable to get rid of us since then.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Kiefer, I have nothing more. We have 0 mailbag questions. We fit in a 20-minute long interview with Ned, and we still got to an hour or under. So I think we're doing pretty well this week.
It's not bad. Yeah, we're efficient.
I want Sam to come on next week and talk about what he meant by the most overhyped team ever. But again, like we've defined, overhyped might be the only overhyped team we've had in this league.
Right. I would like us to have a separate podcast episode where we can do our own thing next week like we do, but then I would like to have a representative from the Garrett Dan game come on and talk. And then of course, Thomas is always invited, and Sam, and we just have kind of an owner's recap. That'd be a fun episode. And we could make a standalone episode.
It's a fantastic idea. And I also want to say we have not heard from Tim. We have not heard from Tim in any meaningful way in the chat or on the podcast. He voted, which is sort of like a life check for him. He is alive. Someone has Tim's phone and is performing votes for him. Right. But other than that, there's been very little involvement from Tim, and we might need to think about replacing him with a more active owner. It would be a real shame. It'd be a real shame if we had to let Tim walk.
I do have this photo of them on the couch, so I know he's there.
Well, there he is.
He might look a little ill in this photo.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, looks good.
Yeah, we need to get some people on, and so we're not just the ones talking.
We need more Tim. We like
Yeah.
Tim. He's in third place right now. Third most scoring team in the league. Kiefer has a big crush on his team, so we need him on.
Yeah.
All right, Kiefer, I'll let you go to sleep,
Cool.
and I'll get to my day over here on the other side of the world. So great episode. Thanks again, and good luck this week.
Of course, yeah. And thanks to Ned for coming on. We always appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good luck for your week 8, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good.